pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda, including the consent agenda? Anything that we want pulled? Speak up now, please.
I just want to pull the TNTP contract. It's AD7.
7, gotcha. Anything else? All right, can I get a motion to accept the agenda as?
I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good. All right. Go look, it's time for public participation. The board will now hear from those persons who have requested to appear at this board meeting. In the interest of time, speakers requested to limit their remarks to 3. Hope you practice. 3 minutes or less. Comments will be timed. At the end of the 3 minutes, you will hear this sound. Don't get fired. You just, come on now. You ready? Okay. Did anybody hear that bell? Okay.
Not as loud back there.
Somebody took the bell. Now, if y'all have an extra bell y'all want to donate to the board, just bring it some other time. Your names are up on the screen. Please come to the podium in that order. And Vanita, let's get started. Ms. Lewis?
Mark Faulkner?
Mr. Faulkner. And please come following Mr. Faulkner as you see your name. Keep it flowing.
Good evening. I'm Mark Faulkner. I'm the chair of the corporate members of Project Reflect. And it was about 2 years ago that myself and Amid White and Reverend John Raphael stood in front of you and requested that you all take a chance and give Smithson Craighead Academy an extension on or a renewal of the charter and give us the opportunity to step in as new management and new administration to reverse the academic and fiscal woes that the school had been going through. And I just simply wanted to come before you here, as I say, year and a half, 2 years later, and say thank you. You entrusted us with the opportunity to continue the service to these kids in the North Nashville, Madison area. And in that time, I just wanted to give you a quick update, in addition to that thank you, to let you know that what we've done with that chance. We became a reward school in that first year after you gave us an extension of the charter contract. We have increased school enrollment. We've refinanced our debt and paid down a significant portion of it. The students have experienced year over year at least 1 year's academic growth each year. We've added 6 after-school programs so that they could continue the development and the enculturation that is part and parcel of Sister Sandra's Project Reflect organization and mission throughout the day. We've opened a preschool, and the pre-K program started in April of this year. We got an SPED compliance ranking of excellent. I challenged Mr. White to a very, very austere budget and said, you have to cut costs and increase academics, which is something that is challenging to do in a academic environment like he was embracing. But he did so. He outperformed the budget. We have lived within our BEP means, and we've taken every student that's walked through our door. We don't skim or test out or try to cream off students. We consider ourselves a safety net for them, and they're all advancing. And so with a few moments to spare, again, I just want to end by saying thank you for the opportunity to resurrect the good efforts that Sister Sandra started and that Smithson Craighead is committed to. Thanks.
Mr. Rizzatello? Ms. Leach?
Anybody?
Ms. Siebert? Hello.
My name is Angela Siebert. I live at 4241 Valley Grove Drive in Hermitage, and my son is a student at Stratford STEM School. Today I'm here to talk to you about practice and pattern we're having at Stratford Academics of grades not being recorded. And I passed out two attachments for everybody to look at. The first one is my son's school report card, and it says that, if you noticed, I highlighted in chemistry specifically, and you can look at his grades, 90s, 100s, and I even, the second page is his transcript, and I highlighted last year's transcripts to just kind of give you an indication of his records of excellence. I'm a single mom, and it's just me and him left, and I push him with everything I have. We live in a cycle of poverty as a single mom, and we are going to break this cycle, but the only way you can do that is through education. I can't afford college, so I stress to him on a daily basis that if he will do his work, this will come. And he came home the first 9 weeks with a 50 on his report card, and I had been watching this, and I thought we had turned all of our work in. So I emailed the teacher, and if you look on the second series of emails, on the second page, this is the last email. I do not have the first email because after the first 9 weeks of going back and forth, I really was just so proud to have it done, I deleted it. But on the second 9 weeks at semester, when I re-emailed on the second page, she reaffirms, as per our conversation the first 9 weeks. So I went to this teacher on the first 9 weeks and said, I don't think your record's correct. And she said, you're right. I just didn't get it done. On the second 9 weeks, it was still the same way. So I went to the supervisor, the principal, and her, where they all admitted openly that this was a personnel problem that they couldn't tell me about. But for some reason, she had a justifiable reason not to enter grades. Now, I want to tell you, I know I have 1 minute left, but I cannot tell you the strain this placed on our household for that 9 weeks, because I did not believe that a state record could be falsified. I believe that this teacher would make this the first priority to report grades. And I want to tell you, my student is exemplary. He has interned for Judge Bell. He has interned for Representative Bill Beck. He has done all of this through the school. He is on their core cadet team. He is on their quiz bowl team. He's played basketball. He's played tennis. And I can get letters and letters of reference to go for this man. So it really bothers me, that if he's having this kind of trouble, what about the other students around him that don't have the support system or the confidence or the parents to be able to come forward? After the second 9 weeks, the principal himself, Dr. Steele, promised me this would be corrected. On the third 9 weeks, it was not corrected. And the last day of school, I suspected that Ms. Green had not corrected the grades. So I had Blake walk to his attendance guidance counselor, who continued to tell us the only way this is going to get corrected, because we stayed on her, was you're going to have to stay on top of this teacher. And we did. And by the last day of school, his transcript, which is a state record, still shows an F. I'm just going to let that sink in the last few seconds. I asked for the removal of this teacher. I asked for recommendation for Mr. Steele. And I'll stop there, because those two I have on record promising me that my son will not have to continue doing this. For 9 weeks, I grounded him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jermaine Gasper. I'm a principal at Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast Elementary School. I came to Nashville in January of 2018 from Washington, D.C., where I was the founding assistant principal at Rocket Ship Rise Academy. Our school received Tier 1 status in our first year, D.C.'s highest performance ranking, with a population of 96% African-American students, in which 72% of those students were low income and 33% were homeless. I deeply wish, as all of us do, that a high-achieving schools with majority low-income students of color wasn't something that was rare. I have a firm belief that low-income students of color have extraordinary potential. They are capable of achieving academic excellence, just like their more privileged peers. It requires having more teachers who can relate to them, who look like them. There's a growing volume of research that shows student test scores and attendance go up and suspension rates go down when they have a teacher of the same race. The correlations are even stronger for black males. I can validate this research from my firsthand experience in the classroom. One study recently found that if a black student has even one black male teacher in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, he is less likely to drop out of high school and more likely to attend a 4-year college. These effects are even more pronounced for economically disadvantaged students. Yet, only 2% of teachers in America are Black males. That's why I was inspired to author my own book called Multiplying the 2%, which details the transformative power of building a teacher workforce that more closely resembles the diversity of the students in his school. I am proud to share that the teaching staff at Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast Elementary School is now 75% educators of color. Our focus on teacher diversity is part of a broader approach I call Windows and Mirrors. We give our students windows to introduce diverse perspectives to their world, and mirrors to help them see their own life experiences validated and valued. The impact on our school is something that you can feel and see. Students and parents smile more, our hallway transitions are calm and orderly, and our academic achievement is improving rapidly. I am proud to share that this year, our students grew 1.7 years in reading and 1.8 years in math based on our most recent NWA Match benchmark assessments. When our students return in the fall, I invite each of you to come see the transformational work that's happening in our building and the wraparound supports that we put in place to ensure instructional time is effective. We've made it possible for our students to focus on their academics instead of the challenges that they may face at home. The article distributed to you tonight details one of several programs we are using to help us do this. I hope you will read it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going into governance issues. Ms. Buggs, consent agenda.
The consent agenda is as read. 1A, approval of minutes 4/23/19, 5/14/19, and 5/28/19 meetings. 1B, recommended approval of supplement number 1 for Murrow School at Glenn Gould Turner Group. 1C, recommended award of contract for rooftop units replacement at J.T. Moore Middle School, Four Seasons, Inc. 1D, awarding of purchases and contracts. 1, Conagra Food Service. 2, Elevation, Inc. 3, Lexia Learning Systems, LLC. 4, Nardone Bros Baking Co., Inc. 5, Red Gold, LLC. 6, Schwann's Food Service, Inc. 8, T&T Produce Company, Inc. 9, Tyson Foods. 1E, legal settlement claim number C-38115 for $21,711.36. Madam Chair, I present the consent agenda and move that we approve it.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor of approving the consent agenda as read? Show of hands, please. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 2, the interim director of schools contract? Nope.
TP.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Froak.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm the one that raised concerns about this contract at our last meeting, and it has been reduced to a 1-year contract because I think the district has begun, we've already started down this path, and we're substantially down the path working with TNTP. And I have raised my concerns about this being a Michelle Rhee project and not really wanting to support that sort of thing. But my hope is that, so anyway, I feel the district listened to my concerns, and we now have a 1-year contract instead of a 3-year contract on the agenda. And my hope is that after this 1-year term, we will begin developing leadership within our district so that we don't have to keep using a contract like this. So I just want to say I appreciate the district's willingness to hear the concerns that I raised last time, and I am going to hold my nose and vote for a Michelle Rhee company, even though I don't want to, and with the intent of revisiting it next year. That's all.
Have a motion, please.
I move to approve the TNTP contract for a 1-year term only.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I do just have to say, especially because we have a Stratford student here, this is something that's been weighing on me for a very long time. Last year and then earlier this past fall, I asked about edgenuity and supports for our STEM students because we just really cannot seem to be able to find math teachers in Tennessee, science teachers in Tennessee. I mean, we are just struggling. I mean, the profession everywhere is just struggling to keep STEM teachers. And myself, some Vanderbilt professors, we were up at Vanderbilt every week, tutoring students, volunteering, just trying our best to fill the gap. And I appreciate the way the community really tried to respond to this need, but the need was much greater than the community could really even support us in. But we continue to have conversations around politics, and we really don't focus our conversations on how it's impacting our students. We have to be building capacity. We have to be talking about making sure we're asking the city, the state, whomever else, to make sure that they are infusing us with the funds, the resources, the people, any kind of supports to make sure that we can, develop homegrown talent, to make sure that we can really support our students at every level, to make sure that at elementary, middle, and high school, if a student is missing a teacher, that we are filling in the gaps until we can find a replacement teacher, and it should be easy to find them. But we have capacity issues, we have funding issues, and even at this board table, we still have political issues where people are not always discussed, but politics are. So I just want to continue to reiterate that I hope we can begin to have more conversations around what it will take to get to the root of problems versus just looking at the symptoms of some of our problems. Because a contract like TNTP, and I have no problem whatsoever with it, but the issue around TNTP seems to be that we don't have the capacity to really support the kind of homegrown talent that we want to, and there's so many larger issues that we have, and it just continues to tug on my heart, especially when we have students sitting in front of us that are frustrated, we have parents that are frustrated, we have, again, like I said, we have community members who, these Vanderbilt professors were taking away time from their own students, taking away time from their own office hours to come and tutor our students free of charge, and we aren't having the kind of robust discussions that we should be, because we should be supporting our administration in the way that they reached out to state-level STEM teachers or STEM professors to get them to come into our schools. We should be supporting our administration better by going to the state and asking for specific protocols or better supports in the way that they help us resource. I think we need to level up the way that we discuss what being underfunded and under-resourced looks like in a district like ours, because we should be getting so many more supports from just the outside, and we aren't. So I'll step off of the soapbox, but I really want us to not just say we're putting people before politics, but really begin to do that and think about what that will look like long-term and how that will impact our students, because it just should.
Bankston?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with an awful lot of what Ms. Buggs just said. On the other hand, I also share Ms. Froeg's kind of ideological concerns about this particular organization. I do think whether it's Teach for America or the New Teacher Project or some of these local organizations like the Martha O'Brien Center, while they, arguably do good work, they are fundamentally political organizations that, in this case, this organization's roots were to reshape the teaching profession in ways that I think a lot of career teachers are understandably resentful of. So I would just, I'll vote for it, as Ms. Froeg is doing and holding my nose, but I would just encourage administration in the future to really look at the roots of these organizations before you bring contracts to the board floor, and then also really understand kind of the true motivations of some of these groups that we're contracting with. I mean, these are groups that routinely get involved in school board races, that routinely get involved in public issue campaigns, that the net effect of which lines their pockets. So I understand the capacity constraints and the need for adding capacity, but this has been a problem for a decade. I mean, it's not new that we've kind of failed to question the underlying motivations of a lot of these groups that we're contracting with. But anyway, that's my piece, and I'll vote for it reluctantly. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I want to say something. I just wanted to make it clear that we do have a student or students from Stratford High School that is present in this room, and Blake has come with his mom to voice her concerns and his concerns. I never want you to think that politics is before you. It's always about you, the students, okay? I just want you to know that. And we will be following up with this, and I promise you that, because this is not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth complaint I've had from this teacher, and this is not even my district, so I apologize, and we're going to get this right.
All All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the TNTP contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Show your hands. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, going to the contract? No? Yeah, okay. Number 2, interim director of schools contract. We did have a meeting earlier, a committee meeting earlier to review the adjustments and amendments to the contract. Some other additional changes that were made after the previous meeting. I wrote on one. Okay, so I just want to clarify for the public some of the, I would say, material changes in section number 1. To summarize, we just simply made it clear that if the board decides to embark upon a director's search and a director is identified other than Dr. Battle to fill the position as a director, that the contract will be terminated with 30 days' notice, and there will be no paying out of the contract for whatever time may be remaining. We made a change to membership dues. It was previously 3 civic organizations. That's been changed to 2 civic organizations and 1 program of executive coaching. And number 11, there was some concern voiced around the use of vacation days, and so we just added some language to encourage the director to make use of that vacation time. Section 19, we removed references to consulting work in sentence number 2 and took out the statement that the director would come to the board for approval for consultant work, and then just clarified the without cause section to make reference back to section 1, that terminating without cause is separate from what would happen in section 1. I believe those were all the significant changes. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion that we approve the interim contract the contract for Dr. Battle.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor? Oh, yeah.
I've been sitting here because I have a few things I feel that I should say, and this is the appropriate time. And I want to be clear that I think all of us are tired and we want to move forward and we want to have, we begin building positive relationships and move forward as a district. But I have just some words to say before we vote. What begins with corruption typically ends with corruption. Time and again, this board fails to follow a fair and transparent process because one or a few members seek to manipulate the outcome. In the words of my husband's grandfather, this school board is forever learning, never knowing. Once again, we find ourselves in the midst of a manipulated process, and in this case, it's just absurd. The way that this hiring process has gone down is completely unnecessary because every board member sitting at this table hopes Adrienne Battle will remain our director of schools for a long time. We would all like the district to experience stability, peace, and strong leadership, and we all like Dr. Battle. Yet once again, there have been manipulations to get her in place. 4 years ago, when Dr. Register retired, the board voted to hire Dr. J. Steele as interim superintendent. The chair did not like this outcome, so she waited until one board member who had voted for Dr. Steele, Anna Shepard, was out for a minor surgery and called an unprecedented second vote. It was clear that with Ms. Shepard's absence, the vote would fall in favor of Chris Henson, the chair's preferred pick for interim. The chair moved forward with a vote despite a letter from Ms. Shepard begging us to wait until after her surgery so that she would have a voice in the selection. After the vote, the chair conducted no board discussions about pay for Mr. Henson or how long he might serve as interim. We had no voice in how that decision was made. 3 years ago, this board engaged in another manipulated process that resulted in the hire of Dr. Saul Joseph. We had one very highly qualified candidate who had served as superintendent of 3 major school systems, including Boston and Memphis. This candidate, Dr. Carol Johnson, also happened to be an African-American female. The rest of our candidates had relatively little experience, mostly between 1 and 3 years serving as a superintendent. When we received the final list of candidates to interview, Dr. Johnson's name was curiously omitted. I asked our recruiter, Jim Hughey, why. He told me that Dr. Johnson had chosen to remove her name from the process, which was a lie. Jim Hughey later told Dr. Johnson that her name was removed from consideration because a board member did not want her to be interviewed, fearing Dr. Johnson would likely be hired if she was granted an interview. Jim Hughey replaced Dr. Johnson on our list with a man who had no advanced degrees, no degrees in education or any related field, and no experience as a superintendent. I don't know if Dr. Johnson would have ultimately been hired, but there is no question whatsoever that she was beyond qualified to make the final cut for an interview with the full board. That didn't happen because the process was manipulated. The result of that search 3 years ago is our recent payout of nearly $400,000 to a director of schools who departed with an approval rating of only 33%. Sean Joseph's approval rating when he left was even lower than that of the school board, which is hard to accomplish. What begins with corruption ends with corruption. And now here we sit. When Dr. Joseph left, we didn't call a meeting to transparently discuss the naming of an interim. The chair and the mayor met to make a decision before it ever came to the board, which the mayor proudly announced in the paper, surprising some of us. The board also had a meeting in the back room to discuss the decision, which should have been held on the board floor, since this board has agreed by vote to hold all committee meetings in public on the floor. And then at our last meeting, some of us were greatly surprised that the board had suddenly decided on a 2-year permanent term for Dr. Battle, despite prior discussions of only a 6-month to 1-year interim term for her. There's been no vetting process or interview process for Dr. Battle. This is unfair to both the public and to Dr. Battle. It leaves a cloud over Dr. Battle's leadership, since the process has not been fair and she has not been allowed to prove herself and stand on her own merits. It's not best practice to give a superintendent a 2-year interim contract. I'd wager that no superintendent in the country has an interim contract that long, and we are ignoring the Tennessee School Board Association's advice of simply giving our interim director a month-to-month contract. In fact, the TSBA will provide a free contract review for us every time we sign or terminate a contract, and we ought to be following their independent advice, since the TSBA regularly works with school boards across the state. Furthermore, this board has decided to forego our obligation to hire the next superintendent, which is arguably our most important duty. It compels some of us to run for another term to try to ensure a fair hiring process in 2 years. Nevertheless, I'm going to vote for this contract despite my strong reservations about the process, because I want to support Dr. Battle, and because I'm convinced that in this configuration and under current board leadership, this board would not be willing to conduct a fair, transparent, and independent search. I hope that our decision tonight will bring the district the stability it needs to move forward, and that it will allow Dr. Battle the latitude she needs to lead. To be clear, this is a board problem, not a director of schools problem. And again, it's completely unnecessary. Everyone here likes and wants Dr. Battle. There was no need to manipulate the process. We all hope she succeeds. But this kind of thing undermines confidence in the board, strains relationships among board members, creates overall distrust, and guarantees board dysfunction, particularly when the mayor oversteps his bounds to interfere in board business. In the future, I hope this board will be willing to create a fair hiring process that it will follow every time a superintendent leaves, regardless of who is sitting in the director of schools chair. Nashville deserves better. That's all.
Any other comments?
May I? Tap me in, please.
Go right ahead.
This is another one of those situations where I would just like to provide context to the viewing community, because I know you all are not privy to everything that's happened via email or phone call or anything else. The way I remember things happening, and I'll go back to when I was running for election, and I remember watching some of my now colleagues who were also running their own campaigns, but who had gone through a failed search and then were coming back for a second search. And I was under the impression that, one of our biggest jobs as school board members was to review the contract and to hire/fire and evaluate a director of schools. So in my opinion, I was going to be working with colleagues who had reviewed a contract, had done their due diligence, and had hired the person that they thought best fit. Fast forward, we are now looking at a new superintendent, and I remember at the May 14th meeting, Dr. Gentry was not here, so I led that meeting, and I made sure during the committee meeting to ask, or to remind everyone, and to ask Dr. Sevier to make note of any kind of suggestions, but I asked everyone at the board floor to send suggestions to Dr. Sevier or Dr. Gentry, preferably both. Then fast forward to May 20th, and I remember Mrs. Elrod sent out an email just requesting or kind of discussing or requesting that we discuss the contracts at a retreat to come up, and she was asking when we would have that retreat. And at the end of it, she asked me if I would step in, and I said that, you know, Dr. Gentry would be scheduling that. But in the meantime, I then again requested that whomever had suggestions for the contract, if you had questions, concerns, to please send them to Dr. Sevier or send them to Dr. Gentry. Then on May 26th, I made sure to call all of the board members. I didn't get an answer from everybody. I didn't get a call back from everybody, but that was okay. I made sure to leave a voicemail saying, if you know, in case you forgot, we will be discussing on May 28th Dr. Battle's contract, so please feel free to send any suggestions, concerns, or questions to Dr. Sevier, Dr. Gentry, or even myself. Then we got to the board meeting on May 28th. We had the meeting, and what I thought was that it was full of suggestions from board members who had actually reached out to Dr. Sevier, Dr. Gentry, to make their suggestions or concerns known. Then I made sure on yesterday when I got back in the country to make my round of calls to ask if anyone had any last-minute suggestions, concerns, or questions, and I did get a call back, a text back from Mrs. Bush, and I appreciate that. I sent that on. I forwarded her the contract. In my opinion, based on where I stand, we've had several conversations about this. We've been very appropriate because we've had the discussions on the board floor, but we've had plenty of reminders and opportunities to submit suggestions or concerns. Mr. Pinkston, at one point at the 28th meeting, suggested that Dr. Gentry and I be able to discuss with Ms. Harkey, our counsel, and to negotiate the contract. Again, I was out of the country, so I remember getting the emails, and I appreciate you, Ms. Harkey, for calling me and then telling me that you would then speak with Dr. Gentry to make sure that if we had any other concerns, suggestions, or questions, that we could reach out to you. I appreciated that, and we streamlined the process, sent everybody the contract this morning at 9:05 a.m. Thank you again, Ms. Harkey. I don't appreciate that sometimes one perspective becomes the entire board's perspective, or that we tend to forget that there are always opportunities for us to collaborate and for us to best support the district, and instead we offer these sound bites that can be taken and misinterpreted without the appropriate context. I'm a bit flabbergasted just because I at no point feel like a contract was forced on me. If there was ever anything that I didn't agree with, in fact, during committee, there was one part of the amendment that I didn't agree with, and I just voted against it. I don't say that I don't like something and still vote for it. I don't say that something is inappropriate and still show up for the meeting. When we had the meeting to name Dr. Battle, it was publicly noticed both in the agenda, it was publicly noticed on the board floor. We had a conversation.
Anyone else? Sure.
Yes, I think there's some confusion about the Sunshine Law, and maybe that is something we can talk about at the retreat. The vice chair calls several times before each meetings, 2 or 3, to ask if there's anything that needs to be added to the contract. I called Ms. Harkey, and Ms. Harkey said these things need to be discussed on the board floor, not with you individually. So I'm not going to return your call to talk about something that you have asked me to do. I'm going to talk to our attorney, and I'm going to do what I think is right. So anyway.
Were you making the point for me, or?
I'm making a response to your comments.
I appreciate that. As it stands, I will continue to just reach out to my colleagues to make sure that you all know what's happening, what's coming. If you want to respond to Ms. Harkey or to our board chair, I think that's most appropriate. It's not like we're meeting at Wild Eggs to have conversations, so I think that's fine.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Pinkston?
In my opinion, doesn't matter much longer, but I don't think the board is ever going to move forward if people continue trying to relitigate stuff that happened in 2015 and 2016 and pick another year out of a hat. I have not always agreed on policy issues or other issues with Dr. Gentry or Ms. Buggs, but I felt more than comfortable asking them to lead us down the final mile of negotiations in this contract. And in my opinion, the process has been nothing but transparent. I think there are 2 reasons that I'm going to vote for this contract. One is Dr. Battle's bona fides. She's abundantly qualified, and we need the leadership. And then the second is, I don't think there's anybody in this city who thinks this board is capable, after a year of turmoil, of pulling off a good search. So those are my opinions, and I'm looking forward to casting my vote yes.
I would just ask that we, at your discretion, that we could get some additional support from Ms. Harkey or whomever about the Sunshine Law and how, like when an email was sent out asking for us to send in our requests and suggestions for what we wanted in the contract, and when we did that, then it was
Forward it to Ms.
clear to me that that was problematic. So just to get some clarity around, I've been on the board 7 years, and obviously this is still happening, so.
Yeah, so any other comments about this contract right here in front of us? All right, we've had, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say for myself personally that I actually went on the record with NPR that I said that I hoped that Dr. Battle would be here for some time. And so there was some public conversation about what our hopes were for this position. So I want to make sure that we're clear about that. I respect TSBA and the work that they do. They do, however, work with mostly much different school systems than we do. And so I think that needs to be noted as well.
Anything else about this contract? Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the contract with the said changes, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Everyone, and Ms. Bobo. All right. There's an agenda somewhere. What I did with it. There you go, Director's Report.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Dr. Gentry, Vice Chair Ms. Buggs, all board members. Last week, all of our executive principals and school leadership team participated in our 2019 MNPS Principal Leadership Institute titled Building Capacity Through Content Knowledge and Instructional Leadership. The MNPS Principal Leadership Institute was thoughtfully planned through the principal's lens with their needs at the forefront. With principals as a target audience, the ultimate goal of the week was to equip principals with necessary resources and tools that will result in an increased ability for principals to lead a high-quality culture of learning, thus maximizing the impact for all students. To support the foundation of a high-quality culture of learning for all MNPS schools, it is imperative we all understand the interconnectedness of our work. As such, the professional learning experience was grounded in collaborating and organizing to continue principals building capacity through content knowledge and instructional leadership using 3 core levers: multi-tiered systems of support, our core actions, and our inquiry cycle. Through the collaborative efforts across departments within MNPS, each day of the Principal Leadership Institute, it included a welcoming ritual, opportunities for learning, collaborating, and reflecting, and an optimistic closure, and of course, plenty of fun. By the end of the week, MNPS leaders reviewed and became clearer about the alignment between the district focus and their work in schools, increase their capacity in content knowledge, instructional leadership, and operational leadership to include MNPS policy and other important updates. They collaboratively discussed data to make data-based decisions by reflecting on our 2018-19 KPI outcomes for the year. The key message here was to know where you are, but don't stay there. Know the reality of outcomes, but shift to how might we be intentional about addressing the outcomes to ensure a different outcome in the future. We reviewed and simulated Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the inquiry cycle, which will serve as the work of the principals, executive directors, and school instructional leadership teams, systematically and collaboratively uncovering student, teacher, and principal needs to ensure focused work and improved outcomes. Together, they will plan for and implement supports, monitoring, and adjusting throughout the journey. On the heels of the MNPS Principal Leadership Institute, the call to action for MNPS leaders at the school and district level is clear. To ensure increased achievement and growth for our 86,000 students, we must stand united, on one accord, fully committed to being intentional about practicing the philosophy of continuous improvement. We must provide space and opportunity for our leaders to be in a learner stance, willing to give, learn, and grow together while applying the content and knowledge in instructional leadership practices and aiming to get better every single day. As such, the feedback and learning from this week of learning has set the foundation for the July principal launch. We are ready to respond to the needs of our principals and school communities. We thank all of you for your support, and we support our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to announcements. Mrs. Bush?
I would like to give a notice on the next agenda to take action to revoke Knowledge Academy's charter.
Other announcements? Is that it? Okay. Ms. Spearman?
Yes. Excuse me. For 7 years, I've been talking about the importance of hearing teacher feedback and an immediate opportunity for the presenters to hear from teachers and so that adjustments can be made. And that is what happened at the Principal Institute this past week. And I want to thank Dr. Battle for that. I heard from principals that they were given a sheet of paper where they could talk about what went well, what was not as strong, and what suggestions they had for improvement. And the principals took advantage of that opportunity, and Dr. Battle and her team adjusted and each day improved and made the presentations and the hours and so many things that were of concerns to the principals immediately were given feedback, and principals felt honored, they felt respected, and I would like to see us do this throughout the district, not just with principals, but also with teachers, so that rather than having something online, teachers have felt fearful about this, and I think that certainly is changing. But for the time being, giving teachers an opportunity to have a piece of paper and a pencil and write an evaluation so that the presenters will know, yes, this worked, no, this didn't, and tomorrow or next month when we meet, we can make certain adjustments that will benefit our teachers. We need to listen to the people in the trenches. Thank you, Dr. Battle.
Thank you, and I'll be remiss if I didn't give a thank you to our wonderful team who was standing ready to make the necessary adjustments and meet the needs of all of our leaders, so thank you.
Yay. Thank you.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So, first announcement, Cummins Incorporated, Second Harvest Food Bank, and Catholic Charities have teamed up to provide free food for anybody needing food during the summer. No questions asked, no forms to fill out. On Friday, June the 21st, beginning at 8 a.m., at 2800 McGavick Pike, and it will last as long as the food lasts. And they've done this once before this summer up in May, and they had so much food in that parking lot, it was unbelievable, but they did get rid of it, all of it, by noon on that particular Friday. I'm happy to report that the Music Makes Us Council will begin meeting again next Monday and Tuesday, and I'll be attending the Monday meeting. Congrats to all the new principals that have been given new assignments for the next school year. I have 3 new principals in District 4. I have Chris Holmes at Hickman Elementary, Ray Covey at McGavick Elementary, and Fred Hewitt at DuPont Tyler Middle School. I look forward to meeting and all of them over the summer. And then in reference to the director's report about the Principal Leadership Institute, I have to say that I saw the videos of the principals playing rock, scissors, paper, I guess at the end of one of the days. That was refreshing to see. They were having a very large time. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I would like to first say that on June 22nd is Nashville's Pride Parade, and I will be in attendance if we have any LGBTQA+ students that would like to see someone there from our board. and encouragement. Additionally, I would also like to say that on Friday, I attended TSBA's open meetings and policy training. It was extremely enlightening, and I encourage all of my colleagues to continue to do their 7 hours that were required by law. And that's a great module if you've not currently taken it. I know we have several veteran people on the board that probably have. On that note, I am encouraged by us wanting to take that conversation even further as a board. And so I would like to just give the suggestion that the comptroller does do that training, and they're extremely knowledgeable and easily available to do that for us if we have any further questions.
My only announcement is, again, to thank the community for wrapping their arms around Stratford as we finalize what's happening with Edgenuity and STEM grades. So please continue to bear with us. We are working towards it.
I just want to welcome 2 new principals to my district, Seth Swihart with Bellevue Middle School, and also Liz Getz with Sylvan Park Elementary, and we are excited to have them, and they've both gotten a great reception so far, so welcome to District 9 to both of them.
Hi. So thank you all for getting us through the business of the day. And I just have a couple of things that have just come to me during all the commentary as we were sitting here. So I apologize for being distracted and not facilitating as I normally do. But just a few things, especially when I think about, I'll start this with a story. I had the opportunity after a meeting on Sunday to have brunch, lunch, probably more liquid lunch than food, so bear with me, with some friends. And one of them is an elementary school teacher. She teaches first grade, and I rarely get a chance to spend that kind of time with a teacher, but someone who loves her job. I mean, she loves her kids, and she entertains us on a regular basis with stories. She has a large EL population, and so her kids have interesting vocabulary, great stories from home that they share, and we had a great time talking about that. So one of the people in attendance at our little gathering, her kids are in a private school, and it was a very eye-opening experience for her. As I sat there and painted the picture for her of the students that a majority of our schools have within their buildings, the poverty, the social and emotional challenges, the home life, the hunger, sometimes just struggling to get to school, get to be brought to school on time, to be brought to school at all, to be brought to school in standard school attire, to be brought to school in standard school attire that's clean. She was floored. She was floored. I think it was I felt like a faucet had been turned on. I didn't mean to hit her so hard with it, but you all have all heard me talk about the portrait of a child. And the portrait of the children that are concentrated, I know, very highly in my district and Ms. Bugg's district. And so I always struggle when the conversation around this table, to Ms. Bugg's comments earlier, gets political, when it gets personal, when it gets just mean, when it gets ugly, when it seems that the only outcome is just to damage somebody's reputation, to damage someone's credibility. And at the end of the day, I haven't talked about a child being hungry. I haven't talked about a child's inability to learn. I haven't talked about a child's inability to get to school. I haven't spent any time talking about any of that. But I've taken the time to wrap my mind around and prepare myself with much passion to be hurtful and to be undermining and to be just totally distracting from what each of us have been elected here to do. And I know that we've had debates around what policy says, and I appreciate Ms. Elrod's comment about TSBA and the 47 districts, 143 of which don't look anything like us, nothing like us. Their challenges are different. Yeah, they're here to educate schools. They have the same fundamental mission as we do, but their challenges don't make a ripple in the ocean to what happens in our large urban school districts. And so what we're called to do here is not to, we pick and choose when we want to to be rubber stampers and just take some policies from somebody else. We pick and choose when I can send an email being very disrespectful, really debating all kinds of issues in an email, and then when I want to call foul on sunshine law. Because the focus still has not managed to get to where it needs to be at this board table. And so I would just encourage us to, even again, in the policy that just articulates what our responsibilities are, there are 3 things that we don't spend enough time on. That's policy and budget and monitoring what's actually going on with our students in our schools. We don't spend any time doing those things. And so when that doesn't happen, that's when we have the challenges that came to us during public participation with the student. We want to be flabbergasted, and we look everywhere to find the problems, whether it's the vendor, whether it's the contractor, whether it's the person that's holding a position that we don't want in that position, who should be fired, who should be hired, what vendor we should be using, what product we should be using, what program we should be using. And none of that is really in our purview. None of it. Because of the one-on-ones I've had with Dr. Battle, and I sit here and say this in her presence, and hopefully she will nod in agreement. When she comes to me to share with me decisions she's making around personnel or program changes, I look at her and said, are you willing to put your reputation and your job on the line for her? Because all I can hold accountable is Dr. Battle. And if you can stand by the decision of the person that you're hiring or the move you're making or the adjustment you're making, that's on you. My job is to evaluate you. The 9 of us, our only job, our only responsibility with regards to the program effectiveness is to do that through evaluation of the director. And so even with contracts, and I do appreciate the time that you all take to take a look at those, because there was a time when, they would come, we would vote, we didn't know what they were for, we didn't know what they were about, so do not misunderstand me. But we have to get to the point where our response is, if the administration comes to us and says, this is the solution we need right now, our response needs to be yes and. Okay, I'll support you on this, and I need to know the plan to get us out of this dependency. Because saying no doesn't eliminate the need, doesn't eliminate the gap that needs to be filled. There's also this idea of a yes concept. We've got to get to the point where we understand what the vision for this district is, and that we are bought into what the vision for this district is, and that our questions are always bounced off what the vision for the district is. Not our personal interpretations, not our wonderings, not what the media says, not because of 17 degrees of separation between a vendor and somebody we don't like. We're asking the district to be in a game that we're supposed to be in. We don't need you all playing politics. We don't need you all understanding the philosophical differences and what organization somebody was a member of, or what organization they were once a fellow of. We need you all to find the best solutions, the best products, and the best resources to move our students forward, all of our students forward. And then come to us with that, and hopefully we'll get to the point where our lens is simply the lens of what's best for our students, nothing more and nothing less. And so with that, I just want to remind us that as much of a burden that's on you right now, Dr. Battle, you really don't sit at the top of this food chain. We do. We do. So when there is a failure, it falls on us. See, because we like to be the boss when we want to tell people what to do, but we want to point fingers when things don't go as we want them to go. We do actually sit at the top of this food chain as the elected board of Metro Nashville Public Schools. And sitting at the top of this food chain just requires us, above everything else, is to make sure we're holding our director of schools accountable. So once again, Dr. Battle, I thank you for hanging in here with us and going down this road and taking this journey with us. But just know that for my part, and I think for the majority of the people that sit at this table, that we're here to support, but in that support, that the accountability still falls with you. And the decisions you make, we're here to support, as long as you're ready to, willing to ride with them. Okay? With that, this meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.